David, we are at this very tranquil place here in Florida. I came in and I saw a grove of orange trees, and then all of a sudden I see this beautiful tower. Tell my viewers where we are.
We're in Central Florida on the Lake Wales Ridge. We're about 55 miles south of Orlando and 45, 50 miles east of Tampa. And we're at Bok Tower Gardens. We're a garden, just celebrated our 81st anniversary. We were started in 1922 by Edward Bok, and it was dedicated in 1929, and Calvin Coolidge came here to dedicate the gardens.
Wow. Now let us talk about Edward Bok, a very unique individual.
Edward Bok really was. He was a person who sought to change society and make it better. Edward Bok was the editor of Ladies' Home Journal and worked for the Curtis Publishing. And he retired early and moved down here to near Lake Wales, had a winter retreat house in Mountain Lake, and would walk up on the hilltop next to his house and decided to make a great place for a garden, a sanctuary, and so purchased the property and started to build a garden there.
I hear birds. These birds are out here today because we're outside in the gardens where we should be. This is a bird sanctuary.
Well, it is. Edward Bok loved birds, and we're on the flyway of many migratory birds, but we also have a lot of birds here, wading birds and raptors, and Edward Bok had a warm place for wildlife and the birds especially. And when he came down here to Florida, he just fell in love with the nature. And so when he created this garden, it was a garden sanctuary for not only man, but also for animals.
The tower, a beautiful tower. You can see it when you're driving in. Where'd the idea come from?
Well, the idea actually came after the gardens. The garden was started in 1922 and basically finished in 26. And then Edward Bok came back down in the fall of 1926 with an idea for the tower. He was Dutch, and he left Holland when he was about 6 years old, and they had Carillon towers there. And so when he created his garden here, he felt there was something missing, and so he decided to build a tower and hired Milton Medary, the architect, and he had two points he wanted Medary to do. And he said, one, for it to be unique in all the world, and two, be the most beautiful tower in all the world. And that it is. It's a 208-foot tower. It's a pink marble, Georgia marble, with carved Art Deco carving sculpture of animals and plants on the tower. And the tower was conceived and built within 2 years, and it was dedicated in 1929.
Now the actual materials for the tower then had to be trucked in or horsed in or some way in.
Well, they were. The tower, it speaks of regionalism. It speaks of the region, both in terms of the design of the tower, the plants and animals that are depicted on the tower, but the materials are actually local materials. They're from the southeast. The marble is from Tate, Georgia, North Georgia, and the coquina stone is from St. Augustine. It's the same quarry that the fort at St. Augustine was quarried from. And it's just a nice color combination of that tan and the pink of the marble.
Now, when you look at the tower, you don't realize that there's actually rooms in there. There's more going on in that tower than just bells at the top.
Well, there is. In the very bottom of the tower is a founder's room, very beautiful tile floor, and it's the most finished room of the tower. But we have actually 7 levels, and the other levels are utilitarian. And in fact, we have an archive for the foundation, which is all of Edward Bok's writings, as well as the papers of the foundation for the last 80 plus years. And then above that, we have a curator's workshop. And then above that, we have a Carillon library. It's the most complete Carillon library in the world, with printed programs from different carillons around the world, but also sheet music, the most complete collection of sheet music for the carillon. And we have recordings of all the concerts that have been played here. We record those. We have lots of visiting carillonneurs from around the world. And then we have a level above that. We have the carillonneurs office, which is, he says he holds the highest office in Florida. And very, very nice views from there. And then above that we have a playing room, and that's actually the keyboard room where the carillonneur plays the bells.
And then, of course, the bells are on top. We have 60 bells?
60 bells. It's 60 tons of bells all together. The smallest one's 16-pound treble bell, and the largest bell is 11-ton bourdon bell.
Goodness. Made out of what material?
They're all cast bronze, and the bells are fixed on a metal frame, so the bells don't swing, but actually a clapboard, which is like a large piece of metal, which is attached to some springs, which create a tension on it, and then that's attached to a cable, which is then attached to the keyboard. So the carillonneur strikes the key on the keyboard, it activates the cable and the pulley, and then the clapboard.
Wow. Now, when you have the keyboard player, you call him a carillonneur. Okay. He is going to play something. He's actually playing music from sheet music?
Right, and it's sheet music. We play classical music to contemporary music. Music for the carillon has to be transcribed because, is you know, when you strike a bell, the tone continues on. It just doesn't stop. So in order so that the sound does not get muddled from one tone to the next, the music, the tone, the notes are spaced, and that's transcribed for the carillon. And that's what's so important about our collection of sheet music, because the diversity of sheet music we have represents, like I said, the largest collection of sheet music in the world for the carillon.
Wow. Now, of course, when you started then, was there tape or was there wire that had the recordings made in the early days?
Well, when the carillon was first put in, we actually had a mechanical system for the carillon, and it was not acceptable, just a lot of mechanical noise, and so we only had live music. And then a recording system was put in, and we had tape music, or tapes, recorded tapes, and now we've gone to digital. And so any of the live concerts that are played, we have 8 live concerts a week played on the carillon, and those are all, we do recordings of all of those. Now there is hour music and half-hour music, which is a digital playback.
Let's talk about the gardens, seeing as though we've talked about this beautiful tower. What can we see in the gardens?
Well, the gardens are an informal garden. It's a meandering garden. It's shade and light and open and closed areas. Some stunning vistas out over the countryside across the citrus groves, and then you can see 16 miles in either direction from the top of the hill. We call it Iron Mountain. A lot of people want to laugh about that. We're 298 feet above sea level, but when you consider the surrounding countryside is only about 100 feet, we're high above the surrounding countryside, so it creates a really nice place. It's a meditative garden. We've got lots of wildlife. We're a bird sanctuary. The whole garden is a butterfly garden. We have butterflies. We have birds and wildlife. You'll see gopher tortoises. We have lots of raptors. Surrounding the garden, we have about 600 acres of open land, besides another 1,000 acres of citrus lands. And that land is, some of it's in preserve, so we have birds of prey and all sorts of critters. But it really is a sanctuary for nature.
And you have a restaurant here.
Oh, we do. We have a Blue Palmetto Cafe. We have great salads, soups, and sandwiches, and fresh breads, and we even have some microbrewery beer and wine, and it's just a really great place to come out for lunch and enjoy the gardens. And there's something for everyone here. You know, we have lots of places for children to discover areas throughout the gardens, and you know, people of all ages can enjoy the gardens.
I'm showing some of my viewers now your gift shop, because that contains, you could spend all day just in the shop.
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm totally amazed by our gift shop. I go to a lot of different gardens, a lot of different places, and when I come back here, I realize just how good our gift shop is. We have everything from gardening items to plants to cards to books. We have some people who come here just for the books. They can find these books nowhere else, and they come here for gardening books as well as nature books.
And you turn an aisle, and there's an orchid.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have, like I said, we have a great plant buyer, and actually, with all our staff is really the institution is made up of our staff, and we have specialists in from our carillon music program. We have one of the finest carillonneurs in the world. To our horticulture crew, we have a great greenhouse and grower. You go through the garden, and there's some fabulous plantings, and hopefully you'll get to see the Tillandsia display we have out now. It's air plants, and these are type of bromeliads. We've got those in our visitor center, and that's just a little taste of what our horticulture crew produces. But our gift shop buyer goes to many types of conferences and shows and buys all sorts of great gift ideas, but all of them are related to our mission, and we're really about our mission. We're a nonprofit, and our mission revolves around conservation, music, or horticulture.
Now, you've got everybody excited about coming here. They certainly need to spend the day. This isn't an hour tour and out you go. How can they get more information?
We go to our website, BachtowerGardens.org, and it's online. You can find out about our conservation program, our horticulture, our history. Also, we didn't mention we have an estate house, Pinewood Estate House. It's a Mediterranean style architecture. It's about 10,000 square foot house, fully furnished from the period of late 20s, 1930s, and we have docent guides there. So it's lots to see here. And besides our staff, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our volunteers. We have about 400 volunteers here, and they are very helpful, very knowledgeable about the organization. And so visitors come here, you'll be sure to run into one of our many volunteers who can tell you about the place.
David, I understand you have an endangered plant garden. Tell us about that.
Yes, Joe, that's part of our conservation efforts. We have an endangered plant program where we work with the state of Florida as well as national organizations and state organizations to conserve rare plant species. In Central Florida here, just because of the geology, we're on the Lake Wales Ridge, we have one of the oldest habitats in North America. This habitat represents plants and animals that were here millions of years ago. And as recently as 14,000 years ago, most of North America was covered with glaciers. Well, Florida was protected. Well, before that, ocean levels were higher when the Earth was warmer, and this ridge here was actually left exposed. It was a series of islands. So what we're looking at some of these rare habitats, it's a scrub habitat, is a snapshot of what was here a million years ago. Well, we have about 43 rare endemic species that are found in Central Florida, nowhere else in the world. And we are growing these in a public display area in the garden. It's our endangered plant garden. And people can come there. They're planted in a circular garden area, and any plant species that are grown within this garden area is federally listed as being endangered, which could go extinct. And it's a great opportunity for botanists, for visitors, or just people that are trying to find out about these rare plants and these rare habitats to see a full complement of all these species.